Today, we're going to be going over the extremely important group by within Python Pandas. And I say extremely important because if you deal with a lot of data and have to code within Python, this is extremely helpful, especially when you're building out different calculations. And also, this is asked quite a lot on different interview questions. And if you guys see my Stratus Scratch Python beginners, almost every single question had to utilize a group by within some extent. So in this video, I'm going to be going over quite a few different examples with different data sets and showing you everything from a basic group by all the way to lambdas through apply and also transform. All right, let's jump on my computer and start going over group bys. So before we start doing group bys, we're going to have to import some Python libraries. So there's three over here. NumPy, right? So NumPy allows you to do some more complex calculations. And since we're doing group bys, I'll show you a few of those. So just shift enter with NumPy. Pandas, always the most important, especially if you're working with data frames, you have to have pandas in here. So import pandas as PD, and group bys come directly within pandas. And then I'm gonna do Seaborn. So you guys might not be too familiar with Seaborn. I have a full video on it on the channel. And by the way, it's import Seaborn as SNS. But what I'm using Seaborn for is grabbing my data for this video, so that way you guys can follow along. So pip install Seaborn if you haven't done that before. Now Seaborn is kind of like matplotlib. You can do some really amazing graphs, but I really do enjoy the sample data that it gives you, and I think it's perfect for this video. So that's why I'm going to import Seaborn over there. And just to show you how this works too, and some of the different data sets that are available in Seaborn. So all you have to do is sns.get data set like this, and then underscore names. And if we run it like this, you can see all these different data sets that you can really grab and find data from. Now, obviously, some of these are really popular, like Titanic data set, used in so many tutorials and projects, but I'm not going to use those in this one. The first one I'm going to be using is tips. I can't remember if I did that in my other Seaborn video or not, but I am familiar with that data set. So just to show you what it looks like, I'm going to assign this to a data frame. So I'm going to just assign it to df. And all I have to do is .sns like this, .load data sets. And then inside over here, I'm just going to put tips, right? Shift enter. And then all I'm just going to put is df.head, so you guys can kind of see how this is built out. And you'll see why group by is perfect on this. So we have total bill, tip, the sex, smoker, day, time, and size. So we have quite a few that we could just do group bys on. And it's not a complex data set by any means. And I feel like it's perfect to work on. So with that in mind, let's go through our first group by. And as I work on this, guys, try to follow along. I am going to give you guys like a few minor questions as well to solve, and I'll let you know when that comes by. So let's do a group by, and all you have to do for group by is we're going to do data frame like this df, right, which we assigned earlier, then put group by. And the first thing that you're going to do in your group by is specify what column or series you're going to be using for your group by. Now, I want to do the time because there's two different times. Now, on this head, you only see that there is dinner, but there is also lunch in here, and I think it'd be perfect. So let's do time. So all you have to do when you're doing one column or series is just put single quotes like this within the parentheses. Now, on the outside, we're going to have to figure out what we're going to calculate. So again, this is the first part is what you're going to be putting inside for this group by, right? What you're grouping by. And then this is going to be whatever you're going to be using as your calculation. Now, what I would like to do for the calculation is a total bill. You know, how much people are spending. So you can just put it like this and make sure you line up whatever is in your data frame, name by name, capitalization as well. So the next thing that you have is what type of calculation you want to do. Now, there's many different calculations. I'm going to be showing you guys a few of them. But for this first example, let's do something basic. Let's do the average. And the average is going to be .mean like this. So shift and enter. And you can see we have time, right? We have lunch and dinner, and then we have the cost. So lunch, the average is $17.16, and dinner is $20.79. And that kind of makes sense because people will spend a little bit more on dinner, might purchase some alcohol, some appetizers as well. And that's why the total bill is going to be a little bit more expensive. Now, this is an older data set, so $20 is kind of cheap. Inflation has hit us pretty hard, but I think it's pretty cool to see, and it's a great practical example. Now, the next thing I wanted to show you guys as well is a two frame. So what this will allow you to do is specify the column or series. So you can see like right now it is blank, which doesn't look that good, right? But two frame, we can actually specify what this is going to be called. So what I'm going to do is copy this and just put this over here, and we're going to two frame. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put average bill. So I'll just say and it's all lowercase over here. So I'm just going to copy that case. So I'm just going to say average bill like this, since we have total bill. And if we run this, right, now we have time and then we have average bill. We're going to stack on a little bit. So on the left, you can see how we have lunch and dinner over here. But we don't want to have that because we want to reset our index on this. So that way, if we do some more calculations based off of this group by, it makes it so much easier. And we can do that through the reset index option. So I'm going to just show you guys how to do this. So I'm going to put another plus over here. I'm going to copy this over here. And then I'm going to do .reset index, just like this. And now if we run this, you can see we have indexes of 0 and 1. And then time is now a series column. So we have lunch and dinner over here and average bill. So if we wanted to do more calculations with these, we absolutely can. And it's so much easier. But there's one more thing I wanted to show you guys too, for this basic example, and that is sorting values. So sorting values is fairly easy, and it's pretty common once you're doing group bys. Now, in this case, there's only two over here, lunch and dinner, so it doesn't matter as much, but sometimes you do get questions on interviews or just stuff that you want to build out, and sorting values makes sense. So I'm just going to put sort values like this. And then inside over here, you have to specify what you want to sort. Now, it's very common that this new group by column that you have over here, the one that you added to frame, is the one that you're going to be sorting by. So you can see like average bill. So I'm just going to populate that over here. And you have two different options. So you can do ascending, and you can put that true or false. Now, if ascending is true, the lower amount will be here first and then there. So by default, it's true. So this will not change it, right? So I do shift enter, right? It is the same. But if I put ascending false, put there, ascending equals false, right? And I'm going to push this up a little bit. You can see now this has completely changed. But the sort values is pretty popular. It's used quite a bit on websites like Scratch for the interview questions, and kind of just memorize this formatting, right? So let's go through this again. So this over here is what your group by. This is going to be your calculation. Then over here next is what you're actually calculating. In this case, we're doing the average. Then you're going to be adding this to the frame. So what is that specific column or series name? You're resetting the index so that way you can use that column over here. Then you're sorting the values on specifically how you want to. So write this out a few times, copy it, try to memorize it. Once you do a few examples, you'll really get this down, and it's not too bad. And lastly, what I would like to do as well is assign it to a new data frame. So that way you don't get confused on data frames. So like if we go back to our normal DF on here, this is what that data frame looked like. I would rather just have it assigned to a new data frame so that way we know what we are manipulating. So all I'm going to do is just say like average bill equals, and then you can just copy all of this over here. And then if I do average bill.head, you can see how this is built out. So once you do all your calculations, if you want to keep your original data frame intact, make sure to make a new one and assign it to it. Now I want to show you guys some of the other calculations that I alluded to. So I just put a few over here. So we already did mean, so I'm not going to worry about that as much. And I'm just gonna copy this so you guys can see some of the different stuff. I'm not gonna do the full thing. Just put this over here. So next we can do is count. And if we run that, you can see that there's only 68 for lunch versus 176, almost 3x for dinner within here. So that'll just tell you how many values are in here. And then the other one that we have that's very similar is size. And you'll see it is the same. Now, the only difference between these two, and this isn't the best example, size will count nulls, whereas count does not. So depending on what calculation that you specifically need will determine if you use size or count. But if everything is present in your table, either one of these will work. Another one that's pretty helpful is n unique, and that'll tell you how many unique values are in your table. So I don't know how many of these total bills are going to be the same. I assume that there's going to be a few. So our n unique should be lower. So if we run this now, 64 versus 168. So you can see that 4 lunches over here was subtracted, and we had 8 dinners that were subtracted. So if you're looking just specifically for unique values, n unique is what you would want to use. Other things you can do is min and max. So if we just go over here and do max and run that, you see 43 versus 50. Again, dinner more expensive. And then if we do min, let's see, I'm curious. So lunch, $7.51, dinner, $3.07. I don't know how someone gets dinner for $3. You can't even get $3 anymore at fast food restaurants. So good for you, whoever got the $3 dinner. Maybe they just ordered a soda or ordered a alcoholic beverage, and that was their total bill. Either way, that is how you can do a minimum on that side of things. And then also what's very popular is sum. So you'll be using that quite a bit, just to show you guys how that works. And then you can see earlier we saw 3x between lunch and dinner, and it kind of makes sense why there's a 3x difference between the lunch and dinner within this data set. Now, we imported NumPy a little bit earlier, so I just want to show you that some of the different NumPy are available as well. So a very popular one is median. So I'll just put median in over here. So you can see the middle values. So lunch, 1596 or 1597 if you round it up. And then dinner is 1839. So we'll show you some other NumPy stuff a little bit later, but also you have that capability, which is pretty powerful. So I have a few different questions for you guys now based off of this. So maybe you want to pause the video and attempt this first and then follow along on how I would solve it. But question number 1, and we have 3 of these over here, is find the average tip for each night of the week. So if we go back over here and go back to our original data frame, and I might just copy this over here just so you guys can see this again. So in our data frame over here, we have a column series called day. So this is what we will be grouping by. So pause the video and try to solve it for yourself first. And I will be solving this now. So all you need to do, df.groupBy. And then over here, what we're going to do first is day, because that is what we're grouping by. And then we said tip. So we have a column over here called tip. So just put tip like that. And then all we're going to do is .mean like earlier, because that will tell us the average. Shift enter, and you can see how easy that was. So question number 2, find the max tip for each sex. So you can see we have female and male in this column over here. So pretty much the same exact thing. I'm going to copy this over here and paste this because it's this easy. Instead of day, just put sex. And then all you're going to put instead of mean is max. And boom. So male, $10 and female, $6. So question number 3, and this is going to be a little bit tougher for you guys. And sometimes when you don't know things about Python or pandas, you are going to have to research this online. And this is a good example of something I had to research originally because I wasn't too familiar with it. So what I want to find is the top 10% of tips for each night. And here's a hint of what you'll be using. So you have a quantile over here. So you'll be using that. So again, pause the video, try to research this and see if you can solve it. Otherwise, I'll be going through it right now. Okay. So I'm going to copy this over here because it's a very similar line of code. So we have day, tip, and instead of mean this time, we're going to put over quantile. So we're going to put that. So quantile. And now you need to specify how we get the top 10. So if you put 0.9 in here or 9/10, what this tells you is the number where 90% is below, which will give you the top 10%. And I want to start adding a little bit more statistics within these videos. That way you can kind of build up some of that knowledge base. But if you run this over here, you can see what tips qualify for the top 10%, 4.9, 4.0, 4.8, and 5. Looking at this though, I'm kind of surprised how low the top 10% of tips are for a Friday, and surprised that Thursday is higher than that. But I guess that is what is happening in this data set. And I've never worked in a restaurant, so if you did work in a restaurant, if that's common, just let me know. But I would assume that Friday and Saturday would have had the highest tips. Also surprised Sunday beats them all on this side of things. So I do hope that you were able to solve those questions and they weren't too difficult for you. We're gonna step the difficulty up a little bit now and go through aggregates where we can do multiple calculations. So what I will be doing is I'm going to be doing that time total bill again. So we have this over here. I'm going to copy that and we're going to start off with that. So to do multiple calculations, you're going to put .agg and then you're going to put parentheses, and then inside the brackets, you're going to do the two calculations that you want. So for a good example is going to be min and max. So just put min over here and let's also put max. So that way you can see the lowest and also the highest for total bills. And it's going to be grouped by the time. So you'll see lunch and dinner as well. And if we run this over here, you can see time, lunch, dinner, minimum, and also the maximum, which is kind of cool because it's way better than earlier where we had to do one at a time. So like if we did the min and max like this, you can see how those, but now we have one data frame that populates that has both of these together. And this is only just one way of doing it. So you can actually do this again without the single quotes. So you can see if I just threw min in here like that, right? Same exact result, which is not too bad. I personally prefer putting the single quotes in there just for formatting purposes, but you can just keep it like that. So if you are reading code, that is why it does work. And also you can throw in NumPy stuff over here. So you guys saw a little bit earlier, we did NumPy. So I'm just going to put this in the middle. I'm going to do np.median like this. So we have minimum, no quote. We have np.median in the middle, and then we have max with quotes. And if we run this, you can see all three are present over there. Now you can also relabel what these columns are going to be. So I'm just going to copy this over here, and there's a few different syntax differences. So let's first get rid of these brackets in the inside over here. And then what you're going to do is label first. So minimum equals, and just for my OCD, I'm going to put single quotes because I like putting that there. I'm going to say median equals, and then all of maximum equals. And then if we run this, you can see minimum, median, and also maximum. And one other way that you could do this is I'm just going to copy this like this, right? And then you can do dot rename. And then inside here, I'm going to do columns equal. And now you just have to build out a list. So what we can do is say min, and then what you can do is single quotes, min, colon, minimum. I already have median as I want it, so I don't need that specifically. I'm just going to save some time. And then I'm just going to put max and just say maximum. Just like that, shift enter, and you can see the same exact result. So there's multiple different ways that you could build out these data frames. Do whatever works for you the best. Personally, I kind of like rename because it tells you specifically what you're doing. Keep my aggregate pretty simple on this side of things, and then just have a rename. Although it does expand it out a little bit. I guess if you're looking just for efficiency, this is probably the most efficient way to go. But I just like really showing my work. So that way, if there's something wrong with my data frame, I can go back and see where I went wrong. And that's why like sometimes like this, although it is a little bit more code, a little bit more work, I'd rather show that. And it's way easier for debugging. So I didn't show this earlier, but describe also is pretty nice. So if I just grab this over here and put describe, it's kind of like doing multiple aggregates at once. So you can just put that here, dot describe, and you can see you have your count, mean, standard deviation, minimum, and then you have your 25, 50, 75, which is like quantiles over here earlier, and then also your maximum. So if you're just looking for this basic information, describe is probably better for you than doing multiple ags, but just keep that in the back of your mind. So now I want to show you guys how you can do group bys with multiple columns. So we'll start on this one, which we usually do our calculations on. So I'm just going to add in a few new lines like this. Now, what I want to grab is we're going to do still the total bill, but we're also going to do tip. So we can delete this over here, and we're going to have to do two brackets like this. So first, what I'm going to put in here is tip, and then we'll put also total bill. So put that in here, total bill. And like basic stuff as before, I'm just going to put dot mean so we can find our average. And then you can see over here, we have the tip and also the bill. And if you wanted two group bys, let's say, for example, I wanted both time and also the day. I'm just going to copy this over here. All I have to do is put brackets inside over here. So you see I already have time in there. And now I'm just going to put day like this. And instead of describe, I'll put mean again. You can see we have lunch Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday like this, and then dinner Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But if you actually reverse these, check out what will happen. So I'm just going to put day like this, and then time like this. So it would flip how these are built out. So you have all the different combinations for lunch and dinner on here. But then you have this over here, which is Thursday, you have lunch, Thursday dinner, Friday lunch, Friday dinner. So the order does matter on this side of things. So figure out when you're going to be building out your new data frame or the result set that you would like, what you would actually like to show. Personally, I think this is fine either way, depending on how you would want to represent your data. And if you wanted to go even more complicated, you can actually do a mixture of both. So I'm going to copy this over here and paste that. And then I'm going to copy this over here and just put that on here and watch what happens. So you have day and time, you have tip, and you also have total bill. So you can start building out some pretty complicated data frames and aggregates by these group bys if you really wanted to. But yeah, this is the formatting on how you would start. So there are a few null values on here for Saturday and Sunday lunch. So I'm going to show you how to fill that. So from earlier, I'm just going to do a reset index first, just so it looks a lot cleaner. And you can see how this looks now. But I'm going to fill these out. So the easiest way to do that is there's a call called fill NA like this. And then you can just specify what you want in here. I'm just going to put 0. And if we run this now, you can see that we have 0 for lunch and 0 for lunch, once again, on Saturday and on Sunday. We're going to be taking a look at transform. And what transform kind of allows you to do is do this group by, but add in another column, and the table isn't going to be shrunk. So if you see earlier, we would always shrink the table to a smaller result set. Transform will keep it the same. So first thing I'm going to do also is I'm going to just load the data set tips again, and I'm going to put it in under a new data frame called DT transform. So shift enter. And just to show you guys, it is exactly the same as the one before, just like this. I just didn't want to mess up the earlier data frame, right? So you have this. Now here's how you would want to work it. So I'm going to show you guys a few different transform examples. The first one I'm going to do is by using a NumPy function, median, right? So we used a median a little bit earlier, but I'm going to be building out a new column. Let's say, for example, I just wanted to show the median everywhere. And Is it practical? No, but sometimes you have interview questions that are like that. So I'm going to say this, and if you're familiar with how pandas works, if you wanted to build out a new column or series, all you have to do is label it over here. So I'm going to say median, and then this is going to be equal to whatever group by that I'm going to be building out. So I'm actually going to specify median bill just to make this a little bit easier. And then I'm going to do a df.groupBy like this. Now, the first thing I would like to do is the time. And then what I'm going to do is put total bill. So, and earlier in the video, right, if we're doing a standard group by, we'd have something like this, median. But it does not work like that when you're doing a transform. So instead of .median, you have to put .transform. And inside over here, specify median. I put it in single quotes. And now what this will do is put that median bill. But what it does also in your table or data frame is it's going to be splitting it up by the time. So whether it's dinner or lunch, you'll see what the median looks like. So if I just put like this and enter, nothing happened because we didn't call the data frame. But if we call this data frame again, you can either put this in here or do a .head, whatever works, right? You can see median bill, but you can see over here, right? 1839. So that is time, right? Dinner. There's no time, which is lunch. So I just wanted to do that really quick. I'm just going to do .query, which is kind of a shortcut. And I'll show you guys how you can do this later. And I'm just going to say time equals lunch. And lunch, I think, will be capital L. And all this is like a very quick way to show this result set. But you can see median now is 1596. So it's going to be a little bit different. So put dinner over here just to show you the difference, right? Dinner is 1839 and lunch is 1596. And both of these are populated over here, which is pretty cool to see, right? We group by, but it shows the total results on here. And we can actually do calculations through here if we really wanted to. So what some people might want to do, and we can just do a .query again. Let's say you wanted to see where the total bill is greater than the median. So you can just put like this. Let's say, for example, total bill is greater than the median bill. So I'm just going to copy that, throw this in query, and this will populate all those that the total bill is greater. So you can see 2101, 2368, 2459, all those are greater than 1839, 3583, and we have 122 specific rows. As you can see earlier, we had 68 for lunch and also 176 for dinner. And another way of just writing this, if you're not too familiar with .query, so we can just do a DT transform like this, and then inside over here, we're going to have to call the two different columns. So we're going to say this, right? And we're going to say total bill. If I can actually copy that and paste this over here. And then I guess I could have just copied this from above, but either way, you can see how this works like that. 122 as well with 8 columns over there. I personally like using .query when you can. It's so much simpler than typing out all of this junk, but most people are more familiar with this. So I wanted to show you guys both examples on it, and hopefully you learn something new with .query if you haven't used that before. We're now going to raise the difficulty up a little bit higher. And with the .transform, we're going to be using a Lambda function. Now what a Lambda function is kind of like a custom function that you can use. So everything that we've done earlier has just been pretty basic and predefined. Well, now we're going to be taking a look at a z-score. Now I'm going to assume that the distribution here is normal. It might not be, but for this case, I wanted to. And what a z-score really shows you is specifically where a number lies on that normal distribution. So let's take a look at how you would be able to do that with a transform. As shown earlier, I'm going to copy a lot of this and just paste this on here. I'm still going to be using it time and also total bill, and we're going to be using .transform. But we're going to be erasing the median because we're going to calculate that z-score. Now, the first thing we're going to do is put lambda x, And then now we're going to be doing the calculation with X. So let's think about how you would do a standard deviation. Now, all you have to do is have your specific number, which is going to be your total bill. We're going to minus that by the mean, and then we're going to divide by a standard deviation, all stuff that's been clearly defined before. So all we're going to do is X minus X dot mean, like this. And then on the outside of that, we're going to say divided by X dot std. And let's just make sure this works because it is going to be a little bit more complicated, right? So we have X over here. Let's see the parentheses line up. We have X dot mean, right? And we have to calculate that first before we divide by the standard deviation. So this looks correct on the parentheses side of things. We have the division sign, and then we have the standard deviation on that side of things. So again, each X over here, you're taking a look at your total bill. So total bill minus total bill dot mean divided by their standard deviation that is calculated from this total bill over here. I think that looks good. So let's just put this over here. Well, first, let's rename this. So we're going to rename this as Z-score. Score like this. And then I think it should be fine. So let's just do enter like that. And then let's take a look at DT transform. And hopefully this is correct, right? And you can see all of the different Z-scores are present over here. So that did work properly, and I'm pretty happy with it, right? We have some negatives and we have some positives on here. Make sure this lines up, right? 17 over here. We do see the median is 18. And I know we should probably have like an average as one of these dot transforms. But you can see 10, right? Negative makes sense, way lower. And then 21, we do have a positive on there, 24, 29. And these are growing even larger. So looks pretty good to me on that side of things. So you can also use a Lambda function in apply. So apply is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be like above earlier where we actually shrunk the data frame. So I'll show you how to do that. And we're going to do a different function this time, just so that way you can get a little bit used to Lambda. I'm not going to lie, Lambda is a little bit complicated. You are going to have to do quite a few examples to kind of pick up this concept, but this is a good start, right? And I'll probably make a full video on Lambda functions. If you are interested, just let me know in the comment section. Also, if you're still watching this video, can you subscribe to the channel, because this does take quite a while to build out these videos. All right, let's build out this apply function. So I'm going to just do df over here again, df transform. So we can just copy that over here. And this time I'm just going to group by, and all I'm going to do is put time, right? I don't need to do our other calculation for this example. So I'm just going to do a dot apply over here, and I misspelled it. So make sure 2 P's ly, not however I did that before, because my apply looked wrong. Now you're going to put in here your Lambda function. So I'm going to put Lambda X again, right? And this time what I'm going to be taking a look at is the tip percentage. So I'm going to just do tip divided by total bill. So all I have to do this time is X, and I'm going to put tip over here. And then we're going to do divided by X. And then also we're going to put over here total bill. So this Lambda is going to take a look at the tip column, and it's going to divide it by that total bill and have a calculation. Now I would like to find the mean of it. So I'm just going to put dot mean like this. I'm also going to do a 2 frame, right? And I'm going to say average tip percent, and then I'm going to reset index. And this should work. Hope. And it does not work. So we do have an issue with it. And the issue, which I just spotted this earlier, but that is in the wrong section. So we want to do it like this. So now we have the average tip percentage for lunch and dinner, which actually lunch is a little bit higher. We have 16 over here, and dinner is at 15. So quick question for you guys. If you wanted to modify this, and instead of showing the decimal, you want to show a percentage, how would you do that? See if you can solve it. So I'm just going to put it over here. Solve for actual percent tip rather than decimal. And it's actually pretty easy, but this will allow you to at least play with this Lambda function. And all you got to do, and again, pause the video if you want to try solving this first, but we can just throw this over here, and it's pretty simple, right? 100 times that, and then if we run it again, 16.4 and 15.95. And again, you can do so much more with Lambda functions, but I think this is a good introduction to it. Okay, so I also want to show you guys that you can put functions within a group by also. It does happen occasionally, and I want to load in a new data set too. So the data set I'm going to load in deals with taxis, and here's the code for it. Just throw that over here. So I'm going to do TX, not Texas. We're looking at taxis, sns.load data set taxis. So just copy that over here, and then you can see TX. And if we enter this over here, this is data from taxis, pickup, drop off, passengers, distance, fare, tips, tolls, total, and all this type of stuff over here. We'll go through this a little bit. I can't remember if the questions I built out at the very end were based off of this or not. I scripted this video a few days ago, but let's put this out over here, and I'll show you how you can specifically do it. So what we're going to do is tx.groupBy, and we're going to be taking a look at is we're going to be grouping by the specific month for pickup. So this is all 2019 data, and you can't really group by this over here because it's a date time, right? You have 2021, 16, 11, and these are on 3/4, 3/23, 3/27. And if let's say I wanted to group by this specific month, it's not going to be best with this. You could build out a brand new column or series, but I wanted to show you how you can do that really quick in here. So all you have to do on this is do text like this, and then pickup. Now, you have this really helpful thing with dates. You can just do .dt.month, and this will show you the month of a date time like this. So if I just copy this and just to show you really quick, right, you can see 33333 all the way for March and stuff like that. So you can just throw this right over here in this group by, which is pretty nice. Then we can just put over here distance. And then let's say, for example, I want to do mean again. And I know I've used it quite a lot in this video, but you can see over here for February, average distance is less than 1. And then March is over 3. And I just don't think there's a lot in February if we're looking at 0.90 on the dot of March 3.024. And we already saw that there's quite a few examples. So I have 3 questions for you guys, and let's take a look at them. So question 1 is find the interquartile range Q3 minus Q1 for tips within the different boroughs. Tip is to use apply. So this one's going to be quite difficult. Question 2 is show the mean, min, max fare for payment type in taxi color. And then we're going to relabel mean as average, min as minimum, and max as maximum. Not too bad. And then question 3, output the average total for taxi color total to each row. And then 3B is output the rows that have a total greater than the average color. So honestly, question 3 is easier than 2. 2 is easier than 1. So kind of put these in backwards order, but feel free to pause this video and try to solve them yourself. If not, I'm going to be going through these now. And I feel like I should probably start solving these backwards and start with 3 just because it's so much easier. And that's just a mistake on my part when I was writing this a little bit earlier. So I'll put the average total for each taxi color. So this is a dot transform, if you guys remember that from a little bit earlier. So all I'm going to do is TX, and then we'll put over here average total like this. And then we're going to put equals tx.groupBy. I'm sure you guys are sick of that word now. I am too, after doing this multiple times. And then we can do color like this. And then we can do total, and then dot transform, and then just throw mean in here, right? And that'll get us for each of these specific rows. And if we just do a plus on here and just do TX, right? You can see we have average total here at the end. Perfect, right? And then 3B is output the rows that have a total greater than the average for that. So all you're going to have to do is tx.query, and then all you're going to do is total is greater than average total, like this. And I'm pretty sure that's how I did it, right? Average total, and boom, right? We have 1953 in comparison where we had 6433 earlier. That solves question 3. Let's go backwards and solve question number 2 now. So this time it's going to be an aggregate, right? Show mean, min, max, fair for payment type, and taxi color, which also tells us we're going to have multiple group bys on here. So just do tx.groupBy, and then we're going to throw our multiple things in here. So we're going to be grouping by payment type, which is like this, payments, right? So payment over here. And then what we're going to do is color. So put color over here. And then what we're going to be calculating through is fair. So we have that over here, fair. Put that on this side of things, and then .ag. And then all I'm going to do on here is put min, max, and stuff like that. But we can relabel each of these in here. So we can say, for example, mean as average. So average equals, and then we'll just put mean. Then over here, we says min as minimum. So minimum equals min. And then lastly, right, max is maximum. So maximum equals max, like that. Shift enter. And then you can see we have the payment, cash, credit card, color, average, minimum, and also maximum. We solved that one. And now here is the toughest of the questions. So we're going to take a look at the interquartile range. So you guys remember that was the one earlier I asked you guys to look up. I hope you learned a little bit about it, because now we're going to be applying a Lambda function to it, which is, I think, our third Lambda function in this video. Okay, complicated, but tx.groupBy, right? And the first thing I wanted to do is the tips for those burrows. So let's just think about how we could do that. So first we're going to do the pickup burrow. Right, so let's put pickup burrow specifically in here. Then we're going to do dot apply lambda x, and now we're going to work on our interquartile range. So what we're going to do is x, and we said we're going to do tips, so tips like that, and then we're going to do quantile, and then inside over here 0.75. Then we're going to do minus, and do the same thing over here. And do 0.25. We have that closed. And you can see over here, Bronx has 0, 1.65, 2.8, and 5.95. So Bronx is kind of interesting. I just want to check if that is working correctly at the Bronx side of things. So just do the tx.query, and we're just going to say pickup burrow equals the Bronx, because I want to see what is going on over there. And we're going to say equals, and then over here in quotes, I'm just going to say Bronx. Only one that had a 0. It just kind of scares me. But if you look specifically on the tips from the Bronx, looks like we all have zeros just going through. So someone that was getting picked up in the Bronx did not tip. And it's just kind of interesting for this data set. I hope you're able to follow through this tutorial and solve some of those different questions here at the end. If you were, make sure to subscribe, because I'm going to be pushing out quite a lot more content, both Python and SQL. Also, I highly recommend that you watch a Scratch interview series over here. I have the beginner questions out, and pretty much, like I said, every question deals with group by. So this is a great way to practice the skills that you just learned in this video.